starts now.
Okay, hey everyone, it's a pleasure to be before you. I do believe that I am myself a member of EBYD. Awesome. And want to make sure I've been paying my membership dues. But my name's Charlene. I'm running for this district because it means so much to me. This is a district that has provided and given to my family and myself stability during a time that was really troubled, honestly, during my childhood. And so it has really broken my heart to see where this district has gone over the last couple of years. It really is, you know, I'm talking about Chinatown in particular. You look at Chinatown today, and it is not the Chinatown that I remember of my childhood, where I could take a bus all by myself from West Oakland to Chinatown, to Lane College, and in many ways it's a community that's become blighted. People don't feel safe, and it's not just Chinatown, you can see this everywhere across the district. And this is what a lot has compelled me to put my name in this race and change what's been happening. Thank you, here in Oakland. And I'm also a longtime public policy maker. As I mentioned, I had some troubled times during my childhood, faced a lot of domestic violence. My mom went into poverty. And so I've spent my career really trying to lift up communities, the most disadvantaged communities, through government, fighting for greater equity. I've worked on everything from homelessness reform to standing up infrastructure programs specifically for disadvantaged communities. Thank you. Let's see, I've worked on, currently, up until the Trump administration dissolved my office, I worked at the EPA Office of Environmental Justice and Civil Rights. And I'm excited to bring the unique skill set that I have here to Oakland. I've worked basically at federal, state, and local governments, and I think during this really troubled and uncertain time, this is what we need. Thanks so much.
Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge comedian. I did not know that. I love comedian. As some of you guys know, everybody looks young here. If I have a child when I was 20 or maybe in a teen, they'll probably be my children. But I ran a comedy club for a long time called Spice Monkey. So we have comedians from all over perform, and it was very fun. So I love comedian because they tell the truth, and if you listen to some of the comedian, they're like, oh, this is what's going on. So thank you for being here. I read about you, but I'm now meeting you in person. A little bit about me. This is something very new for me. I studied finance, came from Cambodia, had the ability to grow up in America, went to the U.S. Air Force, became a mother, opened a business down the street on 17 and Webster, spent a lot of my life serving people through food, drink, and arts and entertainment and building community. I decided to run for multiple reasons. Number one is that my community, the small business community, are dying. We have been victim of crime. There's so much crime that's all happening. People are not reporting because we don't have insurance. We have car driving into our place, like this morning, 1500 Broadway, a car drives into, rob them, all different things. There's so much of that are happening now to the small business community. When my dad died, we also don't have service. Our service of just basic stuff is not there. So that's the reason why I ran, because I want to build a city for my children. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I want to make sure that they have a town that they're proud to love where they live.
Hi everyone, my name is Cara Vidal. I am a D2 native. Actually, both of my parents are also D2 natives. We're third generation Oaklanders. We all went to the same elementary school, Crocker Highlands. Woo woo. And I love this city. I am a crazy, rabid Oakland fan. And I think if any of you have seen like The Last Black Man in San Francisco, the last line in that movie is like, if you love San Francisco, like you can't hate San Francisco unless you love it. And I think it's very that for me, like I can't hate Oakland unless I love it, and I love it. And I want to support it and I want to take care of it, and it feels essential, especially at this moment when we're in a budget crisis, when a lot of new council members are coming in. It feels really important to be innovative in this moment and work towards change in the city, because there aren't too many people who are feeling the squeeze of after pandemic of the budget crisis of public safety inside of the city. a little bit more about why I decided to run, besides just that I love Oakland. After the District 2 seat went up to, the District 2 former council person went up to the supervisor seat, I got a bunch of phone calls from people in community who I'd done community organizing with, being like, would you consider running in this district that you're obsessed with? And at the end of a week of phone calls, I was like, I went to Wharton and I went to Harvard Kennedy School for a public MPA, Master's in Public Administration, and then I came back to Oakland and did housing affordability, and before that I was working in public safety with 4 different cities, and I was like, oh, I actually think I have skills that are particularly useful to this moment, to specifically the budget crisis, to specifically policing, to specifically housing affordability, because I've done that work both locally in a bunch of cities and also nationally with HUD, which also got its budget cut in half recently, so no more partnerships with HUD. But I think I have the kind of connections across like local and federal government to be able to do something important, to innovate in this moment in Oakland, and I want to serve my city if I can. You're the most encouraging timekeeper I've ever seen in my life.
Let's keep that time.
I wish you all could see what's happening in front of me. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for your introductions for the candidates. Now we will begin the Q&A session of this forum. So what I will do is that I have a list of questions that I will read out, and candidates will have around 2 minutes to provide their answers to the questions. Please let me know, anyone, if you'd like me to repeat the questions in case it's very wordy on my end. But I will do my best to make sure this goes smoothly as possible. All right, I'll start off with the first question that we have for today. So our first question for the candidates is, how should the city work to engage and support Oakland's youth? Specifically, how do we give them a voice in their community?
Sure, I can go ahead and take a stab at this. So, youth are our future, and I hear from too many youth just the fact that in many ways they don't feel a sense of hope here in Oakland. What I want to do for Oakland's youth and to give them a greater voice is, we know that in the recent school board elections, right, that the voting age was lowered. I think things like that are fantastic. We need Oakland's youth to be, to feel that they have a voice to shape civic life here in Oakland. Specifically from the seat of City Council, especially for our youth. I do find myself wanting to institute especially programs through OUSD's Career Pathways program. This is where we can ensure that youth who may not have a path to college. I certainly want to encourage college education, but that's not in the books for everybody. Thank you. And so through that, I'm proud to say that I have the endorsement of the building trades, in part because I really want to bring more jobs in construction, in trades, to ensure that those who do not have a path to get a college education can still get a solid middle-class job here in Oakland. We need it, especially because so many folks, young folks, are living paycheck to paycheck, can barely meet rent, have to crash with their parents, things like that. We all know, we all feel the burn of the housing affordability crisis. It is very real. Okay, thank you, sorry. Yes, the timekeeping is fantastic. The other thing that I want to do is to make sure that we really have best-in-class recreation centers. I'm proud to be part of the Lincoln Center Rec Center upgrade. That is something where if we don't continue to fight for more funding to ensure that that project gets across the finish line, this is a recreation center that is going to provide amazing program for not only our youth but also our elders, and I will ensure that that project gets through to the finish line. Thank you so much.
Well, I love the youth. With my 2 children, my preteen, they keep me very busy. I have 2 daughters, it stands for too many, and they keep me, I said, every day I'm tired, so I'm almost like retired every day. So providing space for outlet. When I had my restaurant, I employed a lot of teenagers from high schools, different. So our youngest staff was 17 years old, and our oldest staff was 65, and we have everybody else in between. In our highlight, we have about 40 people, 30 something in a shift. We run 8-hour shift. We have multiple different departments where we have different service, and it's really fun to put the young and all the different age bracket to work together because they all have very different skill set. Like as I'm sitting here in the room with you right now, I am very inspired by your dedication of engagement. So if I was to get elected, I will advocate for providing a positive space, bring back art classes, engagement, involvement, positive path, a mentorship program. There's so many things you can do with the youth to provide them all kinds of space, and it's really fun to listen to them when you actually have the time. Some of my favorite cartoon is Cat in the Hat, and I learned that from watching that with my kid because I didn't grow up in the U.S. I came here when I was 13. But the Cat in the Hat, they go on this journey, and they always theme 1 and theme 2, and they said, "Are you ready?" And you have to be ready, and you have to be steady. So old one, we have to take note on that too. We have to be ready and be steady to listen to the youth on what they want and what they want to share, and we have to listen and ask. Our duty is to help them execute and carry them through the path because the world are very ugly and very difficult, and there's no free lunch.
Yeah, so I talked about like growing up in Crocker, but my dad kind of moved around a lot, and so I got to tour Oakland's neighborhoods by virtue of having a dad who was dadding. And so, I think that one of the core things for me is like in Crocker, growing up there, you can walk around and it's safe, and I walked home from school, and there are many neighborhoods where that is not true. I was just visiting like the San Antonio neighborhood, which is a part of our district, and if those kids walk up 2 blocks and they are on the East 12th corridor, which has one of the largest encampments and also has sex trafficking, and there just are not enough hubs for our young people. And I will say like the Abasey office, which is one of the core hubs for young people, is right in that area, and they also just had a huge fire because someone lit a car on fire at the encampment there. And so that is like, the city does not pay for education. USDA has its own streams of funding, and whatever you can say how you feel about that, but certainly the city does have it has a duty to take care of our young people, and I think where we really should be focused on is on the wraparound services that we provide for young folks. Every school has some form of extracurricular activity. Those schools are not necessarily talking or coordinating across schools, and so I think there's a strong need to move children and move with children and have people following kids through the entire process, so that the folks that you knew when you were in kindergarten are also the folks that you knew when you're in 12th grade, and that there are opportunities to plug back in to support younger folks. Several of our schools are directly adjacent to parks, and those parks are closed. The city should absolutely have part and parcel to supporting that. The other thing I'll say is that we have the OFCY, the Oakland Fund for Children and Youth. A lot of those funds are being sent towards 0 to 5 age children, but there's actually a lot of funding streams for 0 to 5, like Kids First and Head Start, and all of those programs already have funding. So I do think we should be working on supporting our older youth more specifically. The Transitional Age Youth Hub has been on the docket for a long time, and there are funds already allocated for that. So I just think when I think about supporting youth, it's like, what is the wraparound continuum that we can have for our children and youth?
Thank you so much. All right, thank you, folks. I have one more question, and this one is a bit wordy, so please bear with me and let me know if you'd like me to repeat the question. So this next question is, the recent poll conducted by the Budget Advisory Commission indicated a significant divergence in priorities based on age. For example, young people were more likely to prioritize bicycle and pedestrian safety and transportation investments. How will you ensure young people's budget priorities are incorporated into future budget plans?
Okay, I'll start because I have a microphone. Well, the youth is the future. I'm getting older, and they're getting, my daughter's taller than me. She's driving. So for youth, we have to prioritize youth and public safety and everything, and outlet, positive outlet, all of it. So for me, it's like the young is the future, so we have to pay attention to everything from like, budget, that fund for education, which is hurting, even though we all in a lot of forum, people are asking us, what are we gonna do about education? Even the council doesn't have we can advocate for certain things, but we don't have control over the budget. But we can act as an information base. So again, the youth is the future, so we definitely will prioritize them. And if we don't train or treat or pay attention to our youth, then we really would have a messed up future, right? Wouldn't you guys agree? And therefore, we gotta pay attention to the youth because they are the future. And thank you for inspiring me. You guys are young.
Sorry, Charlene gets all the heat. She often has to talk first. So I'm happy to take this one. And I'm actually really excited to answer this question. My mom was actually on the budget advisory committee for the city of Oakland and was like all over the city trying to get as many people to fill out the survey. She really wanted it to be diverse, and she was like walking the streets and like also going to encampments and trying to get unhoused people to fill out the survey. And so largely on the back of my mom and these like really amazing people in the budget advisory committee, I think it does represent the city in a way that it hasn't in previous years. If I recall correctly, like young people talked about bike and transportation, older people talked about public safety, I think was their number one thing. And I actually think that this is awesome because those things to me are extremely linked. I'm a biker when it is not too cold. I'm a biker, I bike to work most days, or I take the 29 bus. And I think there is so much opportunity when we talk about how we build our cities. A lot of cities have had strong success with like criminal prevention or crime prevention through environmental design. And it's something that Oakland hasn't really utilized. Berkeley, in some ways, is deeply designed for crime prevention through environmental design. I don't think they did it on purpose, you can tell me, Terry, but the streets are narrow, they are walkable, they are built for pedestrians, and it is hard to get in and out of Berkeley. Berkeley actually has fewer officers per capita than Oakland does. And there are a bunch of reasons that crime is different in Oakland than it is in Berkeley. I won't just act like that. That's that makes the huge difference. But one of the things is like when it comes to bipping and break-ins and all of those things, getting in and out of the city quickly is one of the things that promotes crime inside of a city. And so there's a lot of ways that through our environmental design, through taking care of transportation and bike routes and having the cities be more walkable and focused on humans, we actually support the ecosystem of crime. And that's not to take away from the other roles of like police and other public safety officials that support our city. But I think that there is a role when we talk about public safety for biking and for transportation. I think that should be the future of our city. When we talk about housing, like a lot of housing experts are talking about densifying in our corridors, in our dense corridors, and for that to work well, because there's no parking requirements, we have to have a strong transit system. And the Bay Area is unique because we have AC transit, and so we have to petition the transit board. But that work I think is absolutely vital to our public safety and to our young people.
I'm excited. It's just someone who is, again, part of our age group for millennials and Gen Z too. A lot of what we need to do, it's a generational fight, right? To really carry the torch of our voices onto the city council. What we know is folks in our age, like most of us are renters. I feel the burn very much on my paycheck in terms of making ends meet, and I have a decent job, which I think is just something that, truly, I don't know how people who don't have a government job are able to make it in the city, especially young folks. Many of us are also those who use primarily public transit. I myself don't own a car, rely on public transit, biking, things like that. And the environmental design aspect, as Cara has mentioned, this is where we can really set the stage for how we want to see our city to look, right? So I'm excited to carry that torch and really fight for bike lanes, public transit, things like that, and I've done that already. I used to work with the U.S. Department of Transportation, and our generation is really capable of more transformative thinking when it comes to urban design. I'm proud to have worked on, we just talked about the Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods program that I stood up at the federal level, $4 billion to really reconnect and restore communities that have been revitalized or that have been segregated by the highway systems, that are going to fund actually 3 projects here in Oakland. It's going to build out a greenway from Lake Merritt down to San Leandro. It's going to fund safer connections between Chinatown and Jack London. And so that's where we can really make our mark. But the other thing that I will say that our age group really loves and celebrates is arts and culture. And so I am so excited to also have a model through cultural districts to actually incentivize for small business ownership, especially minority-owned businesses, through the arts and culture economy. And my time is up. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, thank you so much to the candidates for answering those 2 questions. Now we will open it up to the audience, especially the young Democrats in particular, for any questions that they might have.
All right, I'll walk my around. So, as a transportation advocate myself, is this on?
I can hear you though. Yeah, no, I know. You want the
Testing. So, as a transportation advocate myself, I like to point out to people that cars are the single largest source of CO2 in the state of California. I want to ask how exactly each of you plans to make it easier for young people like myself to get around the place, as many of you have already said, through walking, biking, taking the bus, and make Oakland more transit friendly and prioritize those who use mobility devices, especially, and ADA requirements, and just overall public well-being.
Yeah, I'm excited to ask them to answer this one, so we can go first. Yeah, cars, so bad. And you know, I work with a bunch of housing affordability folks, and one of the folks in my office, Zach Subin, if you're a nerd like me, big name in the nerdy housing world, talks a lot about the ways that, like when we talk about the problem of cars, that is also actually a problem of housing, because most of the emissions that are happening are to and from work. And so our building people, or having people further out, further in deeper, more suburban areas as opposed to in the cities is the reason that emissions are destroying the planet in the way that they are. And so I think we talked earlier about densifying in our urban corridors or in our city centers. I think there is more room to do that. You know, my mom is always like, Oakland is old and low, and fine. Oakland is old and low. We don't have to change it everywhere, but especially in those centers where there is a lot of commerce, where there is room, where it makes sense to densify, I think we should be. And along with our densification, we also have to have real transportation. Like if you look at Brooklyn Basin, which is in the district, in District 2, they waived all of the parking requirements for Brooklyn Basin on the basis that we would have real transportation in and out of it, and we don't, so people are kind of trapped. So it's like a beautiful apartment complex, so I can't say they're trapped, but it's not as, getting in and out of that area is really difficult. And like I said, it is harder to build transportation in Oakland than it is in other places. In San Francisco, they're kind of eating our lunch, and it's because the San Francisco Transit Authority is deeply connected to the city government there. It is a system that is accountable to itself, whereas the AC Transit Board, no one even knows. Do you, any of you know who's on the AC Transit Board? And you are political. Nah. And so so there's a problem there where we are not actually pulling in our transit authority enough. We have this MTC, this Metropolitan Transit Commission, where we haven't sent anyone to that commission in a year, and that is where most of the regional transportation funds flow through. So that means we missed every single regional transportation grant in the last year because no one went to the meetings. And so I think for me, it's about focusing on utilizing the systems to bring in our transportation sisters and pay money and potentially pass a bond in order to support deeper transportation, because that supports revenues in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited about this topic because I have spent a good portion of my career working on transportation issues. I actually worked for Michelle Wu, who's the mayor now in Boston, on mass transit, free mass transit actually, and also just getting out more bike lanes and bus lanes. And what I learned there is that it is a fight, truly. you have to, in many ways, as a city councilor, withstand pressure, because we are gonna get people who are car drivers that are gonna push back fiercely, and we need to push back just as fiercely to say, no, we need this street space for bike lanes and bus lanes, because this is what is equitable, and this is what we need, not only for a more sustainable way of living, but also it's a more affordable way of living. I think one of the things that strikes me consistently is how high the cost of living is here in the Bay Area and in Oakland, not just because the housing is so goddamn expensive, but because the cost of transportation on top of that really just adds on this extra layer of burden. So that's why, again, we gotta fight for our generation's needs, which is, just equitable, safe, as well as affordable transportation. But beyond that, I will say that includes, I'm a supporter of the effort to actually tax Uber and Lyft in order to make sure that we're funding our transit here in the Bay Area. It's really important. And I will be fighting to ensure that we get our due resources from AC Transit, as well as BART. I'm excited to go after this to the San Antonio Alliance effort, because I'm a supporter of transit-oriented development, of ensuring that we get the resources we need to provide just more of our transportation options that are needed, as well as provide the housing that is so needed, and housing across all affordability levels that will also rein in the sprawl that Carl has just referenced here, that very much is widespread across the district. I do live in Eastlake, Cleveland Heights area myself, and I will say that area, to me, it should be the model across Oakland. You see apartment units that are about 20 units dense. There's so much single-family zoning still across Oakland, and even if we technically remove that, still so much of it is still a legacy. And so I will be working to ensure that we can actually densify the city of Oakland. So thanks.
Build upon that is, yes, we need to change some of the rule on the permit bill. I have tried to build some stuff, like for example, I have a grocery store called Howden Market on 17 in Webster. It took me 2.5 years to build that, and just is a simple grocery store. All the different compliant I have to jump through in terms of making sure it's this, it's that, the list is so long, it took 2.5 years just with the permitting, okay? So this is some of the problem with why housing in the Bay Area is so expensive. I talk about it costs $1,000 per square foot to build, and that was at the at-large campaign. And I'm starting to hear everybody's talking about that now, which is good, because acknowledging that is a very rude cost. Every time these developers have to put more money to building it, guess what happened? When they rent them out, you are going to pay for it, because we're the renter. I'm a renter too. It is crazy, the battle between landlord, renter, developer. Same with the price of living here. The reason why it's so expensive, because there's so many fees, tax, and compliance. So before I can sell a cart of milk, I have to pay so many licenses, and it's cost very expensive. So let's get back to getting around the city. Lobbyists. I heard back in the day, our city have all these bus lines, like San Francisco, where they rip all that out because of lobby, car, gas, industry. So how are we going to be able to fix that now? The problem's already here. We need to build more denser communities, right? That's what Charlene said. Making sure that our streets are walkable and not scary, fun and safe. I remember when we launched the free bus program and on Broadway to go up and down to the ferry, and I helped cater to get people to sign on that, and they finally here. But again, sometimes people are taking because that's the only need for transportation. They didn't have a choice. But does Oakland is like a city that we really enjoy walking? No, it's full of blight, garbage, and we're stepping on all kinds of crap. So we need to make sure that we look at other urban cities all around the world and what are they doing, so we can implement that here in Avo. Thank you.
Alrighty, do we have time for one more?
It's 1 minute responses for this one.
Okay.
Alright, just 1 minute responses. So folks, alright, we have a hand back there.
Just making sure this is on. All right, hi guys, I'm Alex. I'm a board member at EBYD. My question is, What's one policy proposal you would not compromise on, even if it meant political risk?
Public safety. I want to advocate for public safety. You know how many years, I've been in the restaurant business for 14 years. You know how many mayor run and council run, school board, East Bay Mud, PG&E, AC Transit that I cater, and all the, I think it's called Spruce, the SPUR, did I say that correctly? I cater their lunch, their breakfast, their dinner, all the politicians come and speak, including, you know, Fiona Ma, all the people that run up at the state level. I'm the other person who making sure their breakfast, their lunch, and all my catering crew for a couple hundred people. And I hear everybody talk about the same thing, public safety. We need public safety, but that's not solving. So I want to get in there and say, what is going on up in there? Because we need that public safety. We need that now. And including risking my political career, which I never really wanted one. But now I want to go advocate for you. It takes regular people to advocate for the regular people. If the council seat is for the regular people, right, representing regular people, and said, how is our tax dollar are being spent? And if that's my job, you can count on me, because I'm going to tell you everything that's what's going on in there, including risking my political career.
I think the thing that comes to mind, and great question, is addressing the corruption that we have in Oakland, which is just very real, and it doesn't matter whether you're an Oakland progressive or an Oakland moderate. I think what binds us all is the fact that we need to seriously reform and ensure that we are holding public officials accountable. And even when there's pressure, as myself, as someone who is running for elected office, I think we all need to stand firm and say that we cannot use public dollars in unacceptable ways. And we need to look at even reforming our contracting process, because there's corruption both with a big C, and there's also corruption with a small c that is ever present in our public policy making. And we need to address it and make sure that we don't stand for that. So thank you, good question.
Yeah, that's hard. It's hard because it feels like just having opinions puts you at risk. But I think if there's like policy things that I have to talk about, you know, I work in housing affordability, and the housing world can be kind of fraught and can pit affordable housing against market rate development. So I think I have a pretty clear view that we need, you know, supply, we need subsidy, we need stability, and those things don't have to be at odds, but like I am beholden to all three of them. And so I think for me it is like, you know, I care deeply about the city. I care about keeping people here. The city has changed so much in just my lifetime. And I love new people who love Oakland. Like, I will ride with you if you ride with Oakland. And still, I care deeply about the people who've been here for a long time. And so I think when I think about what I will ride for on the city council and what I will be unyielding about, it really is like stabilizing, and also when we build supply, thinking about how we build it thoughtfully, equitably, in a way that makes sense for all of us, the new folks and the folks who've been here their whole lives like me. Yeah.
Alrighty, so that was all the questions that we have for today. I'll let our president have any last remarks, but thank you for participating so much. Everyone, please give a round of applause.
Indeed, you know, after hearing a great forum panel like that, I almost wish we could have another couple of council elections, you know, to make sure you get a good one on the council there. All right, so thank you again to our candidates. We're going to now transition to a more of a mixer type thing. It's possible, but not sure at this point because people's schedules are a little up in the air, if other mayoral candidates are going to join us. Meanwhile, you're all welcome to mix around, catch up, stay as long as you want. And we also are mindful that some folks may have other events they need to go to tonight, so we won't be offended if you don't party the wee hours with us. So thank you, and then again, if you haven't already signed in, there is sign-in sheets in the back now with the QR code. So if you already paid your dues, just the top one. If you haven't paid your dues, also the bottom one. I think it's $10. And then, yes, we'll be around. You should get your ballots shortly after midnight. And again, you'll have 24 hours to fill this out. please let us know if you have any questions. And another big round of applause again for Oakland.
I do have to run right now because my best friend's mom is throwing me a house party, and I am more scared of her than I am of you. But we actually don't get that many emails, and so I would probably speak for all of us. If you email us, we'll email you back. I would love to hear from y'all and talk more about your policy and work. And I think it's on the flyer in the back. You can email me. So thank you all so much for having me.